I'd like to call the October 31st, 2024 Lancaster County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. I'll stand for the pledge. Mr. Gaines.
Please join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. First, we're going to start off with the public input session that you can comment on anything that is not on the agenda. All right, so you have 3 minutes. Thank you, sir. All right, you have 3 minutes. At the end of 2 minutes, I will hold this sign up letting you know you have 1 minute left. Get right to the point so you can say, so we can hear exactly what you want to tell us. Okay, at this particular time, we have I think that's Master, M-A-S-T-E-R, Master Plan Revision, Carter, Hills Quarter, Linda Mason. Linda Mason.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My husband and I live in Hills Quarter, not far from where Jack and Jan Blunt live, and we've lived there for 3 years. We love it. And so we're calling, I'm coming up to speak and to support the things that Jack has said in the past, where we like Hills Quarter the way it is. We don't want to have 137 new houses within earshot of my house. And there's other land, I'm sure the other land that's golf course zoned now could be reorganized. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Alexandra Gifford.
Good evening. I live in Hills Quarter as well, Mount Jean North. What I'm understanding from the discussion on this development is that the density will be increased, and that is a problem. They are going to be, the houses will be on the golf course, which never was part of Hills Quarter. And we will then have to maintain the grounds, areas around there, and that will have to be maintained by Hills Quarter. If they don't want to belong to Hills Quarter, then they can set up another development for these houses, because they're going to use our roads, goes on to Old St. John's Road, which is heavily trafficked. We paid for it. Hills Quarter paid for that road. And the other thing is that we've worked well with Mr. Carter. He entrusted our board to take on many of his duties, and I hope that he will have that consideration not to have such a large development. And maybe he can build the same type of houses that are already there, which are garages, driveways, just spread out a little bit more. But they will use our roads and they will use our facilities as well as our community center. And it holds 100 people. So I hope you consider that in your decision. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Jack King.
Board of Supervisors, yes, I'm John King. Everybody calls me Jack. I live in Hills Quarter. Like the speakers before me, I've got some concerns about the proposed development. I spoke the last meeting. What's being added would be a strain on infrastructure that we have, the extra roads, the extra traffic, sidewalks, any number of issues that we don't understand what's coming our way yet, and we're kind of worried about it. One thing that I think would be valuable, should this plan be approved, would be for it not to be part of the Hills Quarter Owner Association responsibility, but be its own separate subdivision and development. In conclusion, I would like to thank Jack Blunt and others for his and their efforts on pursuing this matter, and we really hope for the best. please give our concerns your consideration. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Joey Gwatney?
Supervisors, thank you for allowing the time. I have a few questions. This is regarding Mr. Carter's plans and a few remarks. At the last Board of Supervisors meeting, Mr. Lee provided 30 days and directed, quote, Mr. Carter and the HOA to get together to come to some middle ground somewhere, unquote. The question, how many times has Mr. Carter met with the HOA in the last 30 days allotted by the Board of Supervisors to resolve the citizens' concerns? Many citizens were here last time and expressed a lot of concerns. Another question, how many times, excuse me, can any supervisor name a single issue raised by the citizens last month that has been incorporated in Mr. Carter's plan as it stands before you tonight? Question, has the sewer capacity problem been resolved? Now, Mr. William Smith, Honorable Mr. Smith, was quoted in the Rappahannock Record. This board wants young people to come here. We want this to be vibrant and exciting. We need housing. Sounds great. Is there some analysis of the housing needs, such as timing, how much? Let's see, let me look at here. What was the growth? How about the growth? Past and present, affordability. Are there studies along these lines? We all want to solve problems in Lancaster County as they may be identified, but we don't want to go recklessly abandoning anything just for the idea that we've got it in our minds that we need housing. On that question, the residents' meeting on September 5th at Hills Quarter, it was with the developer and the builder, and they defined the market of the proposed housing on the golf course. We're talking about the 137 houses. Quote, our core market is, look around this room, and that's what we expect it to be. We don't see the market drastically changing from what it is today. That is, retirees who no longer, and that was an unquote, I'm saying retirees who no longer want to deal with yards or mortgages. What studies demonstrate that young buyers can move into that kind of a market? There are 78 lots in Hills Quarter that have not been built upon in the original plan, 78. What's the hurry to get another 130 some? Mr. Carter, I'm sorry, spoken to you because you have spoken often of your efforts on behalf of the community, and I don't need to list them because I'm running out of time. But you headed up the property selection for the high school and a $20 million high school fundraising initiative. You initiated the idea of a the Triways Trail, and I won't go into that because it's another cui bono, and I think it's dangerous. However, you had up Bay Aging, you built a clinic on Tangier Outlet. This is like unbelievably admirable.
Ma'am, bring it to a close. Time's up.
I'm going to ask if I could have yield another 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. But it is true that Hills Quarter is a vassal state to your real estate holdings, and as your status as a declarant. You yielded the entrance to this private community for the entrance to the public high school. You met with county planners for their approval before meeting the Hills Quarter community. You offered 60 days on September 5th to the homeowners and board residents to come up with alternative development plans that did not change the scope or profit structure of your plan. Mr. Carter, your charity begins at home,
All right. Talk to us, ma'am. Talk
but
to
it
us.
has come at a huge cost to the Hills Quarter community.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you for your indulgence.
Okay, thank you. All right, I don't have anyone else signed on this, but anyone else wants to speak? Yes, sir. Come forward. Remember, 3 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, here's my talking paper, and I have timed this, and it takes a little over 4 minutes to do it. I would like, at your pleasure, I would like to try to get through this as quickly as possible. My name is Jack Blunt, and I'm president of the HOA at Hills Quarters. I was here before you last month. The concerns are still there. We've worked very hard trying to resolve our differences, and we have not been very successful. So what I'd like to say is I assume that if I said Hills Quarters might be having the final nail driven in their coffin, you would likely know what I mean. If not, let me try and recap our experiences since around the year 2000. Most important enjoyment of quality of life to people who buy in Hills Quarters or any HOA are its documents that spell out the do's and don'ts you're expected to live by. The developer is allowed to draw up his covenants, his bylaws, and his architectural standards, and with these maintain control of the development. That's the first nail in our coffin, because we had no input. Our original developer finally gave up the ghost. Sorry about that, it is Halloween. When his money dried up, and he invited the bank to come and take us over. You can imagine how many banks now like to run an HOA. I have not seen one that does a very good job. As a matter of fact, HOA and the bank wanted VDOT to take over Old St. John's Road, same road we're talking about for the school. VDOT looked at it, did some borings, decided they would, if someone could come up with approximately $360,000 to fix the road before they would take it into the system. So much for building roads to state specifications. It doesn't normally happen in a subdivision unless there's strict controls put over it. Well, believe it or not, Hills Quarters and the bank, they got together, found a contractor to do it for $160,000, and the bank most graciously said, we'll pay half of it, you pay the other half. Little did we know until later on, we didn't even own the road. Okay, it was owned by the golf course. So we fixed Mr. Carter's road for him all the way to the community center. So I'm sure he's delighted with that. The bank finally, that was the second nail in our coffin, by the way. The bank finally found a buyer. They wrote off $8 million investment in Hills Quarters with an offer of some $888,000 from Carter Financial Corporation, and they arrived on the scene. We were jumping for joy that Jimmy would take an interest in us. He actually told us at our first meeting of residents, the first words out of his mouth were, "Hi, I'm Jimmy Carter. I bought Hills Quarters, and I'm closing the golf course." Well, that went over like a lead balloon. He said, but it's losing money. I didn't buy a loser. So he closed the golf course. A lot of people unhappy. Again, we had no input. The third nail went in our coffin. About 2 years ago or so, Mr. Carter was introduced to a builder from Blacksburg, who's here with us tonight, who was in the process of getting a local builder to build him a house in the area. This resulted in the two of them getting together and deciding on whether or not they would build lots in Hills Quarters. They put their deal together, and Mr. Todd Robinson and States and Homes arrived in Hills Quarters. We had a meeting. We talked about our architectural standards. Unfortunately, the houses did not show like the houses that are originally in there, but we live with it, okay? But we don't run the standards. The declarant runs the standards. So we kind of got another nail in the coffin. If you approve this change to the master plan tonight, You are approving his ability to include maybe 150 additional people using the existing amenities of Hills Quarters, because they're not building anything except houses, and they're going to sell them. So what's going to happen to the amenities we have? They're going to be flooded with additional people, probably an overflow, maybe have to expand the facilities. Who pays for that? Hills Quarters, from our dues, not from their profits.
Okay, sir, I'm gonna have to ask
So let me
you,
say,
this
let
is
me
it.
say in
Okay.
closing,
All right.
okay? I beg you not to approve the change to the master plan, but approve Carter's financial plan as a standalone development. His sewage for the 132 homes will pump through the new school pumping station and not Hills Quarters. He has made a separate arrangement for this to occur for not only the 132 homes, but for the development of his remaining property that borders on Harris Road. It worries me that other developers may ask for a similar arrangement. Thank you
All right,
for
thank you,
giving me
sir.
the time
All right.
to express it.
Thank you. Let me say this. Please stick with the time limit. And I'm saying this out of respect, because if you have a rule and you start breaking that rule, then the people are going to continue to expect you to continue to break it. And if you add another minute, then somebody's going to say, okay, I need an extra minute over the 4 minutes, and you start doing that. And somebody's going to say, I need 5 minutes, and the next thing you know, you might be up to 10 minutes. So please stick to it. There's certain things that you can just leave out because it's common knowledge. Just state what you want us to hear. Okay, so, and a lot of the history of this stuff we know. So, all right, so floor is now open. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Robert Kammerer. I spoke last time. I'm back again. My concern is your position in this whole meeting. After I was here and after this became public, the following week, the front headlines in the Rappahannock Record was Irvington looking for a solution to their septic problems. We can't talk about density without solutions. And I want to hear solutions before I hear anyone approving any more subdivisions for density. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone online?
Chairman, I have no hands raised.
Okay, good. All right. At this particular time, then, I'm concerning the public hearing now closed. Public hearing, that's exactly what it was. Public input now closed. All right. All right. VDOT?
How y'all this evening? I think David sent y'all a report of what we've been doing, and just to add a few more things, we had our annual dry run, which is the time we outfit all of our snow equipment, clean it up, make sure everything's working and all, so we got 100% on that, so everything's ready to go. I hope it's just have another winter like the last 2 years. We won't have to worry about it. And he also wanted me to let y'all know that on December the 10th, from 5 to 7 at the Lancaster Middle School, there'll be a Norris Bridge meeting. So if y'all want to put that on your calendars.
When is that?
December the 10th,
What time?
from 5 to 7 at the middle school.
It's entitled A Norris Bridge Environmental Review.
Are they going to release any pre-information or presentation prior to that?
I do not know. He just told me to let y'all
Get
know.
a copy of those documents prior to the.
Yeah, I'll forward you the email he sent today. It has a link that's updated periodically, so I'll forward that to you.
And one other thing, just want to let y'all know that 27 people from the Northern Neck, we went to Bristol to help them with their storm cleanup and stuff. We were out there for like a month. We switched did like a week, 10 days at a time, where some people were there for the complete month. And I had 5 people from the headquarters that volunteered and I was one of them. We just got back Saturday. So just want to let y'all know that we did that also.
Well, thank you.
And that's all I got. Y'all got anything for me?
Any questions, gentlemen, statements? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, happy Halloween.
Thank you. All right. School construction? All right, Mr. Davis? Pittman?
Got it.
John's got it.
I got it. So I got some good updates for you this week on what's happening over at the school site. We've been blessed with some dry weather, which has helped a lot, and things are moving along pretty good. We'll get to the next slide, I guess, Tom. Like we do each time, this is a 2-week look ahead for the project. Our meeting was last week, so it's a little awkward because we're into this 2-week look ahead. But it just gives you line by line what's happening over at the site. You can see they're working on utility work. We had a big pour this week with concrete on Wednesday. I've got some slides to show on that. They're tying in the geothermal lines, and I've got a good slide to show you on that as well. The turf guy showed up today, and we're on site, so that's exciting. See the turf field kind of come to fruition. Get to the next slide. This is just to give you an idea of what we're going to be finished with. This is off the architectural plan view. It's about 10 classrooms, what they call level 0, and this is where most of the work's being concentrated right now. And just to give you an idea where we're going to end up on some of these slides are hard to kind of visualize what's getting ready to happen. And this is just so you have an idea about where we're going to end through this process. This aerial shot was taken about a month ago. You can see, the scope of the work that's taking place. A lot of stuff is happening, spread out basically on that whole front side of the property. And you can start to see that level 0, that bottom level is on the bottom half of the screen there, and what's taking place there. We can go to the next slide. This was taken on Tuesday. You can see how they prepped for that concrete pour, the vapor barriers in place, and you can also start to make out the auditorium. It's the block on the left-hand side, and the grading that's taking place there. I would imagine that concrete work is going to take place over the next few weeks. But you can really start visualizing what's happening on the site. Again, these photos taken on Tuesday, just to give you an idea, and again, it's a sense of scale. It's one thing to look at the drone shots, but when you start seeing pictures of the guys standing, you start to understand how big this thing is. And it was a big pour that they were prepping for on Wednesday. Get to the next slide. So on Wednesday morning, very early, and I apologize to Ms. Gifford earlier this week. We don't plan on doing this every week, so everybody from Hills Quarter, don't want you to think we're going to be out there at 3 o'clock in the morning every night. But it was important to get this done based on the size of the pour and to complete that work all in one day. And again, it was probably about 3:30 in the morning. You can see.
How many trucks of concrete was that?
Oh, it's probably a Randy question. It was a lot. It was over 300 yards of concrete that were poured that day. And so it was a lot of trucks in and out. You can see 2 of them in the bottom corner of the picture. And but yeah, This is later that same day. They're starting to finish that work, and that's why it was important to start early, so they'd have the ability to get that floor finished up the same day. You keep on going.
Wow.
This slide shows the geothermal lines coming into the school, how they're branching in. There's 12 main lines that come from the parking lot area, which is on the upper half of that photo. The school's on the bottom half. And this is just show how they're tying in all those lines to get them to the school. And those main trunk lines will be coming into the mechanical area of the school. The more I looked at that picture, I thought it might spell out a bad word. I was a little concerned about that, but that's just the way it looks. It's not that bad. And these photos show those main trunk lines coming into the school. So it's 12 loops on the geothermal system. It's a very complex system, but very efficient. So we're looking forward to bringing that into the school. Any questions?
Any questions, gentlemen? All right.
Steel shows up November 11th, so we'll be seeing some steel go up here shortly, and we're looking forward to moving ahead.
All right. Thanks for the update.
Yep, thank you.
Mr. Bateman? County Parks Projects update?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, present to you some progress on the Windmill Point County Maritime Recreational Campus, Westland Beach project at Windmill Point. Here you can see that these were taken last week on the 24th. Some aerial images by our Chief of Emergency Services, Matt Smith. Thank you, Matt. But here you can see the completed pier pilings, completed breakwaters A, B, and C, and breakwater D under construction. Here you can see a land view taken from this morning of the completed pier pilings through breakwater C. You can kind of imagine the pier. Here, last week, taken aerial view of breakwaters D and E under construction. And here's a land view of breakwater D completed as of this morning. And you can see it's already starting to accrete sand and build that tombolo shape. Aerial view last week of breakwaters D, E, F, and G under construction.
It's incredible how much sand builds up so quickly.
It doesn't take long. These
We
breakwaters.
haven't even started really putting sand out there yet.
Yeah, these breakwater structures do a great job of that. Here's a land view of breakwater E and some bank grading currently underway from this morning. Also from this morning, a land view of breakwaters F and G, and you can see where they're starting to grade back a little bit of the bank. And finally, this is a view of breakwater G where it ties into the jetty. That's currently under construction. Here's an aerial view of the project looking northwest. And finally, a wide angle view of the project. I really liked this picture. Yeah, that's the pictures of Westland Beach. We're going to move into.
Yeah, that's phase one of the project. Phase two is the parking lot and the bathhouse. And here is the Bay Design Group, our engineering, contracted engineering firms, master layout sketch of the parking area. The bathhouse is in the center. You'll see the connection to the pier. You'll also see these mats that are laid down for ADA access, for beach access, coming off of one point of the parking lot. This plan has been sent to DEQ for review. This plan was evolved through many meetings with the condo association next door, the landing, and the marina operator. You can see that the main entrance to the marina will be reconfigured as such so that the entrance to the parking lot has, an in and an out for ingress and egress. You will see also at some future meeting an abandonment of a portion of Windmill Point Road from there back to, can you, let me see if I can show that, where that is. But right here is where the new end-of-state maintenance will be. This has been in consultation with VDOT as well. That's what the homeowners wanted. The end-of-state maintenance would be right there. And so, as I said, this has been sent to DEQ for review. John, you got another slide. We've got a rendering from our contracted architects of the bathroom house in the center of that parking lot. That's its men's and women's side. This will be conditioned. It's ADA accessible. Next slide. This is what the rendering of it is from the outside. The roof material will be to match the existing marina building. You can see it has some faux windows there as well. Next slide. And that's the other side of it. The little cupola on top is for ventilation mainly. Next slide. The HVAC is in the back side of the building there. Is that it? Okay. So that's phase 2 of the project. Can you pull up the timeline?
Are we still on timeline for that?
Well, we're going to show you the timeline now. This is the timeline that as I've said before, we meet with Bay Design Group and Guernsey Tingle monthly to dig down into this. Olivia and I meet with them. November and December, you'll see Bay Design Group prepares the full project manual and with advanced prep of invitation for bids for the county. You can see December 6th through 12th. We're hoping that the site plan is approved. Guernsey Tingle's building plans are available for incorporation into the project manual. DEQ, we don't know how long it's going to take to get their approval. January 9th is when we would publish the invitation for bid, and I mentioned last month that the architects and engineers did not recommend going out to bid before January because of the holidays. They thought it might scare some potential bidders away. January 9th, Bay Design Group also has a list of local contractors that they make these documents available to. There's a 35-day bidding period, pre-bid meeting on January 23rd. Scroll up some, John. There's a couple of dates for answer bidder questions and to add an addendum to the bid package if needed. Bids will be received at the county on February 13th. And then the Board of Supervisors would award the contract at your regular meeting on February 27th. The following dates there have a pretty long construction window. They, Bay Design Group and Guernsey Tingle have recommended this based on past experience, material ordering delays. But, if the current contractor down there is interested and puts in a bid and happens to be successful and they're already there, it could be done much quicker than this time frame portrays. But that's the projected timeline right now. At our meeting on Monday, I asked both Bay Design and Guernsey Tingle if we could tighten it up and speed it up, and they both said that no. So that's our timeline for the Windmill Point Phase 2. As you know, you've seen the bid already advertised for the expansion of the Kilmarnock Convenience Center site.
Don, before you leave there,
Okay.
we know, well, I think we know, that Phase 1, the fishing pier and the beach and all that, that's going to be finished well ahead of this.
Well, the completion date is supposed to be April of '25.
Yeah.
So they haven't even started dredging. The dredging is supposed to begin in December.
But they'll be finished the pier and the breakwaters and probably by the very first part of the year.
Probably.
Or shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
So is there going to be a tentative plan to access the pier?
That's well.
Yeah. We'll make that happen.
Or we're going to try to get this moving by hopefully by the time they finish, like you said, so they can
That's,
potentially continue.
that's my hope, that it would be, as soon as that's finished, this is, moved right into. If not, then we will
just gotta
have,
hold, this timeline is already extending and tight.
Yeah.
We just gotta keep on it
yeah,
to make sure that those deadlines coming up are actually met.
yeah.
I guess we can't speed DEQ up any faster than they're gonna go, but
No, but the good thing is that the stormwater management down there is accomplished through the purchase of nutrient credits. So that should speed the DEQ review up.
Well, it sounds like you all are already thinking about just opening up prior to the rest of it and planning, because we're gonna have to have a plan for that. The beach house is not gonna be ready, but the pier and the beach is gonna be ready.
Yeah.
So that's gotta be managed.
Yeah. We'll come up with a Plan B. We hope for Plan A, but we'll always have a Plan B. Any more questions on Windmill Point Phase 2? You've seen the bid in the paper for the expansion of the Kilmarnock Convenience Center site. They're due back here, opened on November 22nd, and you all will award that bid at your December meeting for that project. There's already been like 7 contractors that have expressed interest in that project. So, as far as Carter's Cove and Taylor Creek go, Bay Design Group is about 80% complete on the Taylor Creek project design for their engineering part. The main part left is the shoreline stabilization part of that. Guernsey Tingle, architecture follows engineering. They're about 30% complete on the, and one of the components of, this is Taylor's Creek, here is a bathhouse at Taylor's Creek, and they have a rendering of what that bathhouse at Taylor's Creek would look like. That's a much more natural setting, pretty simple for this restroom facility at the Taylor Creek Park. And as far as Carter Cove goes, there are many things involved with that project. Bay Design Group is about 70% there, and Guernsey Tingle is about 30%. And we meet again with them on December 9th, and we'll have, some more progress updates after that. Any questions?
Questions, gentlemen, statements? Okay, thank you. All right, public hearing. All right, Mrs. Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our first public hearing this evening is an application for special exception by Michael Dean Stefano and Mary Louise McGowan Stefano of 19463 General Fuller Highway, Deltaville, Virginia, to operate an unhosted short-term rental. Staff recommends approval be contingent upon the applicant's continued compliance with the requirements of Article 29.
Does she have a mic?
Pardon?
You have a mic?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay. Article 29 of Lancaster County zoning ordinance requires a special exception for the operation of an unhosted short-term rental in R1. Michael Dean Stefano and Mary Louise McGowan Stefano seek to obtain approval of their special exception application to operate an unhosted short-term rental located at 5013 Windmill Point Road in Whitestone, Virginia. The VDH operations permit provides approval for a 2-bedroom home. Based on this in our ordinance, the applicant may provide accommodations for 4 adults and their minor children. The applicant has provided a parking plan showing adequate parking, which is included in the application package. Also included is proof of commercial general liability insurance in the required amount of $500,000. A certificate of occupancy has been obtained and is already on file with the county. The short-term rental is registered to operate with the county and current on the payment of transient occupancy taxes. This issue has been advertised and adjoining property owners notified as required by law, and to date, there are no complaints on file regarding this short-term rental. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All right, you're the applicant. You're the applicants, right?
Sorry?
You're the applicants, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so you
sir.
want to speak? Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
All right.
yeah, go ahead. You wanna take
I
the
don't know
floor.
that y'all have any specific questions. We purchased this property actually about 4 years ago. It was basically a tear down. We saved it. It's a historic property, 1891 farmhouse. We brought it back to life. and have been operating it as a short-term rental since August of 2022. We have had 127 guests. 95 have left reviews. All have been 5 stars, all incredibly appreciative of our hosting, of our restoring a farmhouse, how we have appreciated the past of the county, and all have been very appreciative of what the beauty and the amenities that the county has to offer. They often recommend the wonderful restaurants, the wonderful peace and quiet, the wonderful waterways. We are so excited for the Windmill Point beach construction. That is going to be absolutely fabulous for us. We have had several people stay over a month because they are building houses in the area. We've had several people come back and purchase property in the area. Because of purchasing this property, actually, we have ended up purchasing our full-time resident here right across the bridge. We live in Deltaville and have restored another farmhouse, and we are actually restoring a third one for our son about 3 doors down from the current 5013 Windmill Point. So we, appreciate your rules and regulations. We have been abiding by them all along. This is not a party house. We get couples, maybe 1 or 2 children in the summertime, but in general, we get couples here for long weekends, really just coming to relax, rejuvenate, enjoy the area. Most of the time when we come to, we handle everything ourselves. We clean, we correspond with guests, we greet them, we do all of that. We're there for anything that arises. Most of the time when we get back after they've been there, the place is cleaner than we left it. We have not had any issues with guests, with pets, with anything. They have all been very respectful and very appreciative of our efforts with this house. So anybody have any questions, we would be happy to answer them, but we would appreciate your approval of this matter and letting us continue with this venture.
All right. Fellow board members, you have any questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you. All right.
Okay.
And do you have any questions of Mrs. Hall before I open it up to the floor? Okay. At this particular time, I'm going to open this. You may be seated.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. We're going to open it up to the floor here for your comments concerning this request. Remember, you have 3 minutes. At the end of 2 minutes, I will hold this up. You have 1 additional minute left. Please, please, please obey. All right. Sound like I'm in school? All right. 3 minutes. Anyone want? Do we have anybody already signed up, Don? Oh. All right. So do we have anybody from the audience that would like to comment on this one? Okay. Anybody online?
Mr. Chairman, I have no hands raised.
Okay. All right. At this particular time, public hearing is now closed on this particular one.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this special exception for unhosted Airbnb.
Okay. We have all heard the motion. You in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, unanimous approval of this motion. Thank you. All right, the second request, Ms. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The public hearing number 2 for this evening is an application for a change of zoning district classification from R1 Residential General to C1 Commercial Conditional by Northern Neck Housing LLC, care of Jesse Davis, for a 6.843 acre parcel with improvements identified as tax map number 28-189, located at the intersection of Virginia State Highway 647, which is Chases Road, and Mary Ball Road in District 3. This request comes to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of denial 3-2 by the Lancaster County Planning Commission, with 1 member abstaining. Staff recommends that any approval of the rezoning request be contingent upon obtaining VDOT approval for a commercial entrance or a letter from VDOT stating that no such approval is required. Article 8 of the Lancaster County Land Development Code outlines permitted uses and regulations for the C1 district. The applicant wishes to expand the uses of his business, Riverview Contracting, for the following permitted uses: contractor equipment storage yards, retail, wholesale, and processing activities not objectionable because of dust, noise, or odors, off-street parking as required by this ordinance, and accessory structures. These uses are attached as a list of conditional rezoning proffers, which has been signed by the applicant and notarized. It is important to note that nearby parcels have commercial uses. The closest commercial parcels, 2 parcels south, are approximately 0.61 miles away. Those 2 parcels, tax maps 28-193 and 28-194, are zoned C1 commercial. Approximately .67 miles south of Riverview Contracting is a swath of 9 parcels with C1 commercial and C2 commercial limited zoning. This section of parcels includes Webb's Lawn Service and Contracting, Whitestone Church of the Nazarene, Bayside Animal Hospital, and Extra Space Storage. Approximately .94 miles further south is Connemara Construction, Zone C1, and approximately 1 mile further south is the Kilmarnock Auto Clinic, also Zone C1. The comprehensive plan suggests that commercial activity be located in or near the towns and in or near traditional village areas. This parcel is located adjacent to the county's primary growth area, and a map of that is attached. The triangular-shaped area between the 3 incorporated towns of Kilmarnock, Irvington, and Whitestone. The multiple commercial properties located within .67 miles of Riverview Contracting are also adjacent to the primary growth area. This project was originally approved as a home occupation, which is a by right use in R1 residential general zoning, as the headquarters for the homeowner's private contractor's business, Riverview Contracting. The owner now wishes to have retail sales, which can no longer be classified as a home occupation, based on the definition in the code, and seeks to rezone to C1 with proffered conditions. This issue has been advertised and adjoining property owners notified as required by law. Staff have received 20 letters of support with 25 signatures and 2 petitions of support with 14 signatures, and these were provided to the board members. To date, county staff have received anonymous complaints and comments from 7 people which were not in favor of this rezone request. A synopsis of these comments was attached to your packet. 2 public comments were made against the request at the Planning Commission public hearing, and those comments are detailed in the meeting minutes also included in your packet. 2 public comments were made in favor, and 1 public comment was made against this request at the Board of Supervisors' August meeting. Meeting minutes are also included in the packet. VDOT staff have also previously contacted the Planning and Land Use Office to question why a commercial entrance was not submitted for review. Pictures of the site were also included. And I'd like to go through a brief timeline for the property. This property was purchased 9/17/2021 by NN Housing LLC. 3/17/2022, the Planning Commission was set to hear the rezone, and that was withdrawn by the applicant. 3/17/2022, the land disturbance permit was approved as a home occupation. 6/6/2022, building and zoning permit approved for the building. 11/30/2022, land disturbance, zoning, and building permit approved for an addition. May 30th, 2023, the county was made aware that the use of the property had evolved beyond the by right use of a home occupation with the addition of products for sale. 2/16/2024, the owner applies for a rezone. 3/21/2024, the Planning Commission hears the request and sends to the BOS with a recommendation of denial. 4/12/2024, the BOS rezone hearing scheduled for June. 5/24/2024, the agent for the applicant requests a reschedule of a hearing to July. County staff rescheduled for July. 7/8/2024, the agent for the applicant requests rescheduling of the hearing to August. 8/29/2024, the BOS hearing scheduled for rezone, and then we were rescheduled for today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, you have any questions of Ms. Oliver and the statements you want to make before opening it up?
I got a question, but I don't think Ms. Oliver can answer, probably the applicant.
Okay, so.
I appreciate the timeline. I really appreciate the
The applicant,
timeline.
you're here?
That helps.
All right, you want to come forward?
I'm puzzled a little bit at the beginning. Let me ask this question. Ms. Oliver, how many employees can a home occupation use? Have? Is it 4?
Let me check.
While she's looking for that, I'd like to hear why, in the beginning, when this land was sought and looked at, why it wasn't bought in as a C1 then commercial? Why wasn't it considered to be C1 on contingent? You know, even before you buy it, you know, you could have came to the county and said, I'm looking at this property and I'm gonna buy it if we can get it rezoned as C1. I'm trying to figure out why was this road traveled that you got on and made it home occupation instead of in the beginning going C1.
You're going to answer, okay. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. So what happened originally was
State your name for the record, sir.
Jesse Davis, owner of Riverview and in housing.
All right.
What happened originally was we bought the property. We were currently operating our business out of our home in Weems. And when we bought the property, the idea was to just move it and get it away from home because we put in a pool and my wife, and we all no longer wanted employees coming in constantly and business nature going on around our house in our little community where we lived. And so in buying this property, we decided to just move everything there. The permits that were asked for were for what we were already doing and nothing any different. We were already doing a home occupation. When I asked for the permits, I was told that I could do it because I own the house that is on the property. It's all one property. And that honestly, there's a little bit of a gray area and it's allowed to have a home-based occupation even if you don't live there. So that's what we did. And the original application for commercial zoning, I withdrew it because we found out that we didn't have to do it. And like any person would do, it was going to be much more expensive to do the commercial in the beginning. I had already purchased the property and was going to do something with it somehow, just didn't know what originally. But we had found out how the commercial was going to go and that we didn't have to do it, so we retracted and went with what we already had and what we were already doing at home basically, and just would be in a different spot. And after putting the steel building up, we realized that my wife needed an office. She needed to get out of the house, and around that time we purchased another property for our new house where we weren't going to be able to keep doing these things and in the community where that house would be. And it was all a move to get everything away from the house and get it somewhere else, and in order for us to sell that house and start building a new house.
Mr. Chairman, if I may answer Mr. Lee's question, the code simply states no more than 2 persons other than immediate family members residing on the premises are engaged in such occupation. So reading this, it doesn't seem to limit the number of employees, but rather the number that immediate family members residing on the premises engaged in the occupation.
All right, thanks. All right. Any other questions? Any other questions, gentlemen? All right,
Could we make a presentation? Yeah, we want to make a statement about why this application should be approved.
Okay, state your name and.
My name is Nancy Ellen Keene. I'm an attorney with Dutton, Simmons and Dutton, and I'm representing NN Housing LLC, Jesse and Stephanie Davis. The application was filed, and when it was considered at the Planning Commission, there was not a lot of conversation at that meeting about some of the reasons why the application should be approved. There was a lot of discussion about, as you say, like the home-based business aspect of it, but there are some things that support this application being approved that hadn't been discussed at the prior meeting. And that's what we wanted to talk about tonight, so that you all would hear that information. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that, hold on one second here. Okay, so I don't want to repeat what Ms. Hall has already said, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, so there are a number of residents, as you heard, who are in support of this application, something like 39 residents of the county. I don't think we had that stated at the Planning Commission meeting because I don't think any of those letters had been produced by that time. Also, it should be stated that at the Supervisors meeting in August, the 2 people who spoke in support, Mr. and Mrs. Scholwer, couldn't be here tonight, but they did speak to you in August about their support for this application. And I believe a Mr. Costello spoke against on that night, but he also had spoken at the Planning Commission meeting. There was a history of this property, and I believe the staff might have mentioned this in the Planning Commission meeting, but there was a history on this property of some commercial uses with the prior owner. This is before NN Housing acquired the property. For example, VDOT used this as a staging property, and Doggett used it for disposal, and it had disposal dumpsters on the property for some time. During the applicant's ownership, there has been no complaint or challenge about the use of the property until this rezoning application came forward. A couple of other things we didn't get to talk about at the Planning Commission meeting, but would be important for your all's discussion or understanding of this application, is that the comprehensive plan supports this application being approved. The comprehensive plan establishes the planned growth area located roughly within a triangle between Kilmarnock, Whitestone, and Irvington, which Ms. Hall did discuss a minute ago, and it's bounded by routes 203, sorry. For the record, I am referring to pages 7-9 and 7-12 in your comprehensive plan, and it's important to note that the parcel is directly next to the planned growth area, which is shown on page 7-12 of the comp plan, and that the comp plan says a couple of things that are important. Higher density residential and commercial activity will be directed to the PGA. On page 7-9, language also suggests that the boundary of the PGA is somewhat flexible when it suggests flexible when it refers to the PGA for the county as being, quote, in close proximity to, but not necessarily contiguous with this roughly triangular shape, end quote. So the comprehensive plan it refers to the planned growth area as this triangle, but it is somewhat flexible as to what the boundaries of that triangle are. They may go across the road, if you will. And Ms. Hall mentioned that there are similar commercial properties along Route 3, south of this property, between this property and Whitestone, and she went through that in great detail. There is another property north of this off of Route 3, fronting Fleets Bay Road, which is Duggan Farms. Now, that is an agricultural property, but it does have a retail aspect to it with parking and cars going in and out during normal business hours, similar to the type of thing that would be occurring at this property. The other thing that was not stated, I don't think in the staff report or in the Planning Commission meeting, is that this property is closer to Kilmarnock than it is to Whitestone. It is about 1.8 miles from Whitestone with, as you heard, a number of commercial properties at the 0.6 miles away or 0.9 miles away from this property south of it. This is only about 0.8 miles from Kilmarnock, which makes it a mile closer to Kilmarnock than it is to Whitestone. Kilmarnock is the business hub of the county. And I will refer you to a Rappahannock Record edition, August 15th of this year, 2024. The headline on page 1 was, South Main is transitioning to commercial. This article discusses a recent rezoning on South Main Street within the town, stating that there is an evolution to commercial use on South Main Street. South Main Street is approximately 0.7 miles from the subject property on Route 3. The other thing that I wanted to mention to you is that the comprehensive plan includes a main theme on page 7-1 to increase economic opportunities and additionally to adopt zoning sufficiently flexible to encourage non-residential growth and encourage entrepreneurs wishing to establish small businesses. If you see, for the record, pages 7-28, 7-30, and 7-32 of the comprehensive plan, the instant application is submitted by a small business entrepreneur and fits squarely within the language in the comprehensive plan, which encourages businesses and commercial uses in this planned growth area. Additionally, aside from the comp plan, this application is also consistent with the Lancaster County 2035 Strategic Plan dated December 2023, section on business-friendly environment, and that's at pages 29 through 44. The message is Lancaster County is open for business. The plan recommends that government jurisdictions, including the county, assist in this goal. The applicant is a small business entrepreneur who has since 2001 built a promising business which he chose to locate in the county, and the decision should be rewarded and encouraged by the county. It should be noted that there are several new businesses coming to Kilmarnock, a new county school being built. We heard about that just now, earlier, and several new residential developments in Kilmarnock and the county, all within this PGA plan growth area. Additional residents, businesses, and visitors will need more products and services, including construction and landscaping services, which is what this business provides. And I wanted to just list a few of the precedents, aside from what Ms. Hall had already mentioned, on Route 3, south of this property. This is a phenomenon, if you will, that has occurred all around the triangle, not just on Route 3 south of the property. And as I mentioned, Dug-In Farms is on a side road north of the property. But if you look at Route 200, both between Whitestone and Irvington, and then again between Irvington and Kilmarnock, there are a number of similarly situated C1 properties adjacent to residential R1 properties, which are on the other side of the road from this triangle plan growth area. I can give you examples of those, and one of those is, here, hold on. One of those between Whitestone and Irvington is called Wharf Trading on Route 200. It is across the street from Streamline Roofing, and it's outside the town of Whitestone, and it's before you hit Irvington. On the other segment of 200, between Irvington and Kilmarnock, just across from Compass, Hills Quarter, Northern Neck Mechanical, Dreamfields. On the other side of the road, you've got a commercial building at the corner of 200 and Weems Road. You've got the Lancaster School Board Administration Building. You've got Ranson's and Chesapeake Tree Service. You've got a couple of marine businesses there, auto and marine businesses, an insurance company. You have a Sheer Pleasure, I think, hair design or something like that. There are a number of businesses also. They are adjacent to residential as well. And so there are a number of businesses that already exist on all sides of this triangle that are similarly situated to this. This business, we didn't get to talk that much about this business, but the materials that would be sold at this business are natural type materials that sort of blend into the our surrounding area. These are landscaping type of materials. That's the kind of business materials that would be sold at this business. The other thing I would like to say is that as a result of all of these things, which is the fact that there are residents that support this, that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, that it's consistent with the Lancaster County 2035 strategic plan, that it's similarly situated to numerous other C1 properties that are adjacent to R1 and that are either in or across from the PGA triangle, and that this particular applicant has offered proffers that the staff suggested would assist it in potentially getting this application to be more palatable to the county. They have offered these proffers, which limits the use of the property. It also calls for screening, And there were people who, I think Ms. Hall mentioned that there was a summary of some complaints that had been anonymously made about this application. Most of those comments or complaints were in about 5 subject matters. And we believe that we've addressed most of those. They were about the screening, which has been a part of the proffers. It was about the sale of the property or potential sale of the property. What could it be sold for or used for? And we've limited those because we've limited the use of this property to like only 4 of the many, many by right uses in C1. And then also the storage of millings was complained about, and they have moved the storage of some of these materials to the back of the building. There is in your packet tonight a master plan that was prepared by Wayne Savage at Soils, Inc. And Mr. Savage, I believe, is online in case you all have any question about it. The staff had seen the master plan when we provided it. They didn't have any comments about it, but you all may have a question or comment about it. With that, I wanted to take any questions or...
All right, gentlemen, you have any questions, comments, or whatever? All right, not at this time. All right, okay, thank you.
Thank
Do
you.
you want to speak?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right. I'm getting ready to open it up, gentlemen, to the public for comments. Anybody want to ask any questions on this hall? All right. Okay, and I'm getting ready to open this up to the public for your comments on this project. And remember, you have 3 minutes. At the end of 2 minutes, I will hold up this sign letting you know you have 1. Okay, so at this particular time, the floor is now open. Jesse Davis. You said what you had to say. All right, all right. And Brian Clark.
Good evening. My name is Brian Clark. I reside in District 3. I am a resident that is contiguous with this property. Before I begin, I want to just take a moment to say thank you. I say thank you because once upon a time I served my community when I lived in the city of Bowie. I was a city councilman for many, many years. I know what you all do. It is unheralded. It is an unthanked task, but it is a remarkable body of work that you do. So thank you on behalf of the citizens for what you do for all of us. And thank you for what you did with the school. I really enjoyed hearing the presentation around the school. My wife and I were early donors to the RFA effort to raise $450,000 for the auditorium, and we are big believers that that school is going to transform this community. So anyway, it's not why I'm here, though, obviously. I'm here because I do not agree with this request to be approved. It is interesting for why all the reasons prospectively that were just articulated for why this property should be rezoned. And had this happened day one, and Mr. Lee, you asked absolutely the right question, we would be in a very different place. But it wasn't. It wasn't for, I'm sure, a whole host of reasons, not the least of which you can buy a residential property a whole lot cheaper than you can buy a commercial piece of property. The applicant expressed almost immediately that his intention was to move his place of business to the property immediately. I don't mean to teach you all how to suck eggs, but I will read you the language for what a by rights home occupation facility requires. This is the definition in your all's code. No more than 2 persons other than immediate family members residing on the premises are engaged in such occupation. Ms. Hall, I would strongly disagree. I think that language explicitly says no more than 2 additional people other than the people who are living in the property. But even if we agree to disagree on that matter, the occupation is secondary and incidental to the use of the dwelling unit or residential purposes and does not change the character thereof. That certainly was not the case day one. There is not display of products outside the home. There were display of products for the better part of a year and a half. No additional parking is provided. There must be parking for about 20 cars, trucks, and machinery that is now on that property, and there was from day one. No pedestrian or vehicular traffic is generated beyond the normal to the district in which it is located. There is significant additional traffic. Cars and trucks ingressing and egressing from that property all day long. Significant change in traffic patterns. No equipment or process is used which creates noise, vibration, glare, fumes, odors, or electrical interference offensive to the normal senses of a person standing off the property. Trucks moving in and out on all day long, I think all of us would agree, you would not want that in your front yard. You would not want that in a home residential facility. Further, the comment was made around why it should be approved, because the comprehensive plan articulates that it should. The comprehensive plan, in the very first statement, states the land use should, quote, preserve the county's rural character. It should manage the quality and character of future development, i.e. prevent sprawl and checkerboard development. This is the definition of checkerboard development. It should concentrate higher density commercial and residential development. All of the properties Ms. Hall referred to are concentrated in a central area and location. This is half a mile away. This is not concentrating your commercial properties in the manner that your comprehensive plan articulates it should. You're supposed to evaluate rezoning and special exceptions permit applications to ensure consistency with the comprehensive plan and compatibility with the character of the surrounding area. I own the farm right next door. This is not compatible to a farm. It is not compatible to the residential community that surrounds that entire area. And I guess the last thing I would say, and I know my time is almost up, I did find it was interesting that the attorney was given 15 minutes, but I understand your rules.
She was speaking.
I know, I understand.
She was speaking for the applicant, and she's not,
Understand your rules.
So we allow the applicant to speak as long as they need.
I would say that, Mr. Chairman, you hit the nail on the head when you articulated earlier. If you have a rule and break the rule, you were making a point about keeping inside the boundaries of the rules. You have rules for what that property can and cannot be, and those rules were broken from day one. And to reward that now will send a message. One, it's a horrible precedent. You will not be able to say no to anyone else in the future. But more importantly, what do you say to all the people who did it right, who started day one requesting a rezoning, getting that application, getting it done properly, spending the money, time, and effort to do it right? What do you say to all of those people? It's not a very good message.
Thank you,
I thank
sir.
you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah.
All right.
Charlie Costello, District 2, and thank you for mentioning it. I say he is exactly right, and that's what I said, and it's what you have in your paperwork. You've got the rules, you got the ordinances, you gonna do this. Everybody, the next person is gonna walk in here and say, oh, I did this. Why the hell, they're gonna do it. Also, all this property, they keep mentioning down around, Chemeric Auto and all, that's all prior to any zoning that took place, and they're all rezoned, I'm sure, or built long, because they were there when I came here 35 years ago. And the zoning took place about 3 or 4 years before that. So please, don't just use them as an excuse to break the rules here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Anyone else? Yes, that's sort of one in the back first, yeah.
I'm Mike Christopher. I live down Chases Road behind the property. I pass it going to work every morning. This has happened before with other properties. I disagree with day one, it being like it is now, because it was not. It was built to house equipment that was housed at their residence. By the way, Stephanie is my niece, to get that out the way, so that, but, and the property, when it got on Route 3, the business blew up. and it's hard to stop your business from blowing up, and that's why we're here. The home business, that's definitely out the window. This is, you know, that's why we're here now. And I would very much encourage y'all to let this property continue as it is and do what's necessary to accomplish that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I know you want to speak, but wait until after we close the meeting, because it might be something else you want to address. All right. Anyone else? Anyone online?
No, sir.
All right. At this particular time, no one else wants to speak. We're getting ready to close the public hearing.
I want to rebut some things that were said.
Okay, we're going to do that after we close the public hearing, as you represent the applicant. All right. All right. Public hearing now closed. Yes, you may speak.
I just wanted to say a couple of things in rebuttal. What Mr. Christopher just said is true, and Mr. Davis tried to explain that in his first comments. He originally tried to move there as a home-based business, and that's true, and it was not like it is now. And the business blew up once the building was completed, and people started coming wanting to buy landscape materials out the wazoo. Basically, that's the reason you didn't come originally asking for a C1 rezoning. I mean, it's just, that is the fact. The other part of this is the county prior staff authorized the home-based business and then authorized the buildings. I mean, that's just a fact. It's not, I'm not trying to criticize anybody or whatever, but it was done. So that's the situation with it. And is there anything else you wanted to say in addition? Okay.
I would just like to add a little something to what Mr. Clark said. His field is not continuous with his house. His field is separate. His field touches my field. His house is 6/10 of a mile away from my shop. He cannot see my shop from his house. He only has to see it when he passes by and goes down Long Lane Farm. I'm sure he has not heard any noise at his house, 6/10 of a mile away. And as to the traffic, we average 4 employees most of the time, maybe 6, not counting me and my wife, and there's not really any extra traffic. You know, you had VDOT with 10 dump trucks up there. I have 2. And, you know, we've had paving contractors try to come by and use the place like they used to. There was always something going on at that property. VDOT put the entrance in when they were using it. VDOT used the property for years in many different ways when they were building the highway. Our entrance will be changed with the master plan, which hasn't been shown yet. Our entrance will be changed and updated to meet VDOT specs. We will put up fencing in the front and fencing and probably also plantings on the sides and in the front. The reason Ms. Hall said something about VDOT making a comment in the beginning about why an entrance plan wasn't asked for or talked about, because we didn't need it. It was not a commercial construction application or commercial zoning in the beginning. So the VDOT thing was not a point. It didn't need to be done. Now it does. It can't be done until we get C1 zoning. Then VDOT will allow us to submit our plans, and they will tell us that they're approved and we can build the entrance the way it needs to be. Our entrance currently is much bigger than Long Lane Farm, where Mr. Clark resides. We don't have nearly as much traffic as Long Lane Farm does. So that's it.
I have one quick question.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
you mentioned earlier on that your equipment and stuff was too much for the current residential area you were living in. So what makes it appropriate to move it to another residential area? If it wasn't appropriate for your current residential community, why would it be appropriate for another one?
Well, the real difference is that is a field. It's by the highway. We lived off of Taylor's Creek Road down in Moran Creek. One of my previous neighbors is here. It was, at that time, we only had a few employees, just the same, 3, 4 maybe, and we put in a swimming pool. That got to be an issue with, and the shop was in the back, putting in the swimming pool. You know, we just didn't want people coming in past the swimming pool all hours of the day. And
So,
we really
so
have.
Nobody wants it there, but it's appropriate to have that in somebody else's neighborhood.
Well, it's not in anyone else's neighborhood, it's in the field, and there is no neighborhood within 0.6 of a mile. There is no house near me that is necessarily a neighborhood. We are very much by ourselves out there where we are. The closest neighbor is Todd Booth across the street. I can't even see his house from my shop. Mr. Clark cannot be seen. The locksmith is the next closest house, and he runs his business out of his
What's
house.
to say if he's already backed this approval, if we approve it, he's gonna ask for a request potentially to rezone his property next. This creates a domino effect, essentially, in my opinion, that will result in essentially the corridor between Whitestone and Kilmarnock, essentially, maybe someday in the future, being all commercial. Because if we approve this particular one, which I would consider spot zoning, what's to say Mr. Convoy can't request it, and then the person across the street, where Crosby's used to be, can now request it, and so then you create a new area of commercial, and if you combine that, essentially now you've created a commercial corridor, as you mentioned, with the agricultural activity. You've now created a commercial corridor from Whitestone to Kilmarnock, much like you'd find in Gloucester.
You have a point, but we do need a commercial corridor somewhere.
We have a
We
commercial zone
cannot
in
continue, we can't respectfully, we can't continue to add all these developments and homes without adding contractors like myself to take care of them and support businesses. The problem here right now is infrastructure. We don't have to support everything we're building. We provide a service that people need after they're here.
I don't disagree with you. I think you provide a very important service, and you're doing a very good job of your business, and I don't have any questions with that. But my point is that I have to govern on the comprehensive plan, and I feel that the comprehensive plan's primary goal and why people move here is the rural character. And that was part of the big reason of why we prevented Dominion from building their towers. These are industrial or commercial activities that would impede on what we value here as our underpinnings of what we consider attracts people here.
Well, back to your statement with the locksmith, he's not here to voice his own opinion, but he gave a letter of support for us and that we are not bothering him in any way. He probably also has more than a couple of employees. And, you know, he does also live at that place. And
That's
he
the
has,
big difference, though, with home occupancy. He actually does physically live there. He owns that
but
house, and it's
he
his
still
primary
wouldn't
residence.
fit the bill of what.
At no point in this current property were you ever the primary resident of that property.
I was told I didn't have to be. And I received permits to build what I built twice. And I have stayed in communication with Don Gill multiple times about, are we okay? Or, you know, are we getting any complaints? What do we do to stay under the radar and not have any issues? And that answer was, do not do retail sales until you get commercial zoning. And we didn't. We deliver everything that we sell that is a material that is on my property. We're trying to get this straight and get it commercial like it needs to be. That's the point of being here. The way it was is in the past, and, you know, we could almost fit that bill if I put a few trucks somewhere, but we're trying to grow, we're trying to get in alignment with where the commercial needs to be, and
Yeah, my issue is not with you, it's with rezoning this property and what the future of that means for this area and the corridor between Kilmarnock and Lancaster and future owners that own this property and what they can do there. Essentially, once you greenlight a commercial corridor, you've opened that entire area for development, as much as some of the other residents. If Mr. Conboy or a future resident of any of those adjoining properties now come in, if we approve your request, there's going to be no reason we could turn those requests down.
what is the issue with Convoy making a request to grow his business?
Because you're transforming a residential area where you have residential houses into a commercial activity after the fact.
So you're
People
saying
don't
no to
want-
business in the county
There are
instead of
lots of
saying
places
yes?
where commercial lots are adjacent, or you could have had other commercial lots that are already for sale.
And Mr. Clark
I
could have
just-
bought my property when he had the chance, but he didn't.
He could have. I mean, that's, none of those are my issues here. My issue is strictly on what this means for the future of Lancaster County and what the comp plan actually says and what it actually values. I don't have any further comments.
Anyone else?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. When you made I'm looking at the timeline here, on March 17th, you had, the planning commission was to hear the rezone. Was that a rezone to commercial at that time? Was that what
Yes.
you were considering?
Yes.
Okay. Why was your decision then to not rezone at that point?
Because in talking to the previous staff and looking at the finances of the time and the timeline of stopping, I had already ordered the steel building, and had we stopped, waited for the rezoning, waited for plans to be drawn for whatever we needed to do to get it built, we would have had a big issue with holding everything up. Everything was already in process to put this building there, and we already had the permit to do it, I think. I'm not sure about when I got the permit. But it was found to be better in much discussion to withdraw it and try to get it done later on.
The one thing that gives me a problem with this is that a major requirement for the home base is not to have product on site. This is my opinion, but to me, you shouldn't have product on site until the approval is done. And that's what my heartburn is with this right now. And the same thing, if we allow this, then the next person's going to say, oh, well, they allowed it that time, we'll do it now. And we don't want to start that process. So I just wanted to let you know where I stood on that.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think, Mr. Davis, we just well stated, the elephant in the room is that it looked like you backdooring into this C1. And I think that's the opinion of a lot of residents that have called me that, hey, he's got the business, so we know you all gonna go ahead and approve it now because he's already there. So to them, you kind of, trying to go around the process. And that's really the gist of the problem. It came in as a home occupation, knowing eventually you're gonna get to C1, that you're gonna apply for C1, and the board was gonna approve it because you already established, you got a building there, and you're operating, so we will go ahead and do it. So that's the nature of the problem. And just like Mr. Bellows said, basically said, we be setting the precedent that we can't go back and undo, and I don't want to be part of that. I don't want some board 5-10 years from now got to deal with a problem that we created. So
I do want to tell you, you have a nice building. It's not anything to do with that, it's just the timing of the way this happened.
Thank you.
Can I ask Olivia a question? Yeah. So Olivia, I just heard a statement that if Mr. Davis got rid of a few trucks, that he could continue to run his business as it is. That's not true, though. Tell me about a home-based business. So it's my understanding that a home-based business means that you're residing on the premise and you're running your business from that residential home.
The county permitted the project as a home occupation, and I believe at the time, I was not here, but I believe they knew that he didn't live there when they permitted that way.
Was the intention for him to move there?
I don't believe so. So our code has a definition for home occupation and states what you can and can't have. And he would have to satisfy those requirements to continue if he were not to be rezoned.
So, I hope I'm hearing you right. So you saying if this is denied, in order for him to keep operating his business as it is today, he would have to live in that house somewhere on that premises?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
He would have, he'd have to conform to the definition of home occupation in the
Right.
zoning order.
It doesn't spell out who lives there, per se, in my opinion, but we'd have to get the county attorney to weigh in on that.
Well, I've actually litigated that issue in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals, and if his application is denied, I would recommend to the Director of Planning that we give him a notice of violation for whatever issues there are, including the storage of materials, which is clearly not allowed in a home occupation, as well as advertising, I believe that's allowed, whatever other issues there are. As far as residency, the ones that I have litigated, the people were living on the properties involving home occupations. So I would have to look at that issue, but it's supposed to be a home occupation.
The spirit is that.
It's not supposed to be a place to operate a business where you're not living. Now, whether our ordinance is clear on that or not, I'll have to review that. But it obviously, the words speak to themselves as a home occupation. I have a home occupation. I live in a house. All the home occupations that I've been involved in, the people have lived in the property. So we'll look at that. But he's clearly, as a home occupation, he cannot have the storage, he cannot have the advertising, he cannot have this, that, and the other thing. And it does disturb me that the building permits were granted for a very nice building that clearly is not a home, not a home. But we'll cross that bridge once the board votes.
All right. All right, gentlemen,
Any other
any other
comments?
questions or comments? All right,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we uphold the planning commission's denial and we deny this request.
All right, gentlemen, you all heard the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. That's a unanimous vote. Motion passes. All right.
So no issue.
Oh, okay.
Work on those violations.
Move for approval of the consensus docket.
All right, you've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous vote. Motion passes. All right, salaries and invoices.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the invoices for the month of October in the amount of, give me just a second, let me blow this up, $3,027,590.60. Total payroll, $462,800.68, for a total of $3,490,391.28, of which capital improvements were $2,336,123.15, and ARPA funding of $1,609.16.
All right, you all heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's a unanimous vote. Motion passed. All right, Ms. Hall, Mr. Gill.
Mr. Chairman, your second consideration item tonight is consideration of a proposed major revision to a previously approved master plan by Carter Financial Corporation for the Hills Quarter subdivision. The gist is to add 137 additional lots of similar size adjacent to the existing 297-lot subdivision there at Hills Quarter. You had your public hearing on this issue at your September 26th meeting. You tabled action after that public hearing was held to get more information on the sewage capacity issue. As you know from last month, we learned kind of at the last minute that if the existing Hills Quarter development plus the 137 homes were built out, that the Hills Quarter sewage pump station would be 26 lots over capacity. Mr. Lee's motion last month was to table this to get more information on that. Since that meeting, county staff has met with the applicant and Dewberry engineers, and we have learned that there are several options that the applicant can undertake to address that 26-lot overcapacity issue. A couple of things have been stated last month and earlier tonight about if this were approved, the board would be basically approving adding 137 lots to the Hills Quarter HOA, and that's not the case. If this were to be approved, the board is simply saying that in this area within the primary growth area of the county, it would be okay and it makes sense to add 137 homes there. It could be a separate subdivision and not a part of Hills Quarter. And that's not a precedent. That's already happened in the county. One example, Mr. Rowe helped find this earlier this week, Heritage Point. When you drive into Heritage Point, that's the Heritage Point subdivision. When you get all the way to the end, it's a separate subdivision called Currituman Hills. So there is already a precedent in the county for another subdivision adjacent to an existing subdivision. So I'm not going to go through the memo package that you had last month. You're well familiar with all of those things that were stated in that package. The applicant is here tonight, and I believe he probably wants to address you all. I and Mrs. Hall would be happy to answer any questions that you may have now ahead of time based on the memo package or otherwise.
All right. Before we start asking questions, Mr. Carter.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Jimmy Carter. I'm president of Carter Financial Corporation. 7 years ago, Carter Financial Corporation bought 92 individual lots in Hills Quarter and 336 acres of adjoining property, which included the former King Carter Golf Course. I note that I was not the original developer. I had nothing to do with the construction of the covenants or the agreements, existing agreements. I'm only trying to live within what the agreements are. There is a question, some of the questions that have come up that I'd like to address are, does this approval in any way conflict with the agreements that exist with the homeowners association and this property? And I draw your attention, in Article 10 of the covenants at Hills Quarter, it says, the declarant makes no representation or warranties of any kind or nature whatsoever that it will continue to own and operate the golf course club, the golf club, or that the golf club premises will continue to be used for the purpose of the golf course and related facilities on an ongoing basis. I contend, I think it's clear that the property owners, when they bought the properties in Hills Quarter, that they understood that this land could be used for alternative uses. This is no surprise. The course failed and now things need to be changed as allowed by law. The land is zoned R2 and R2 dictates what those alternative uses could be. And I'm only asking for what the R2 allows and nothing more. And Mr. Gill just addressed this issue. Somehow the question is, does your approval tonight, if you approve, in some way endorse or support the addition of these properties into the Hills Quarter Association? And actually, you're protected from this because the Virginia Property Owners Association Act actually restricts local governments from the ability to decide whether land is added to a homeowners association. So that's not something you get involved in. That's something that is contractual law between what the covenants say, and we'll be dealing with that with the homeowners association. So that's outside of the scope of this request. We know that you received a letter from the town of Kilmarnock concerned about the sewer capacity. And the state code creates a two-step approval. Tonight, this is step one. It says that over 50 lots have to be submitted for preliminary plat approval to show general compliance and don't need to show the engineering at this point. State code created this so that local governments could address the big issue to start with. Step two is what we'll be working on next. If you approve, then I'm tasked with the responsibility of creating the final plans to come back and address things like water, sewer, roads, Chesapeake Bay regulations, on-site water retention, and erosion control. We're aware of the sewer capacity issues. We've had a lot of conversations. We're all aware of that because of the schools, you know, at Hills Quarter. I clearly understand that the step 2 approval requires me to address the sewer issue when I come back for final approval. As Mr. Gill said, we're working on those issues. We believe that there are solutions to it, and I'll address that in the step 2 part of this proposal. So in closing, the simple question before the board this evening is whether the plan amendment meets the requirements for preliminary plan approval. Olivia Hall, in your board report, states that Carter Financial complied with all the requirements and she has recommended approval. Based on these facts that we've talked about, I'm respectfully requesting this evening that the board ministerially approve the submitted plan amendment. I'd be happy to address any questions you have.
Gentlemen, you have any questions? Mr.
No, I
Carter?
would like to get something cleared up because one of the residents made a statement, and Don, either one of y'all can address it. We are not pumping through the high school pump station. We are not pumping these 137 lots through the pump station. I believe that statement was made by one of the residents.
That's correct. That's right.
We've agreed upon the capacity of the pump station.
Right.
There is some excess capacity there, but we've agreed upon the fact that it will serve the school system.
Schools, right.
Right, I've been over backwards to try to work with the county on those allocation of that. And we believe there's enough excess capacity here to get things worked out. But I'll be responsible for having to address that when we do the final approvals.
Yes.
I want to make 2 points.
Yes, sir.
The first point is that I agree with Mr. Gill. The covenants and conditions of the HOA are not before this Board of Supervisors. They are independent contracts between the parties. They're just like any other restrictive covenants. We don't enforce restrictive covenants. They are what the parties agreed to. And because the parties may or may not be happy with what they say, that's not this board's concern. And the fact that this board may approve the additional lots do not make those additional lots part of Hills Quarter HOA. That, again, is an issue between the HOA, the developer of that. So the issues relating to, that have been raised about use of HOA facilities, that's not on the table for this board. That's a private contractual matter. The second thing is that the county's subdivision ordinance is very clear. A developer is responsible for the utility service for his development, whether it be septic tanks on each lot, whether it be unified sewer provision, whatever that is, he's responsible for it. The county is not responsible for that and will not build a sewer system or operate a sewer system for a developer. Now, that does not mean that we won't, and maybe in the future, extend utilities wherever the board may decide to do so. But it is at the end of the day, it's the developer's duty to provide for his development, okay? So I want to clarify that the 2 issues. One, that we are not approving additional lots to be added to an HOA because we don't have the authority to do that, number 1. And number 2, that we don't enforce the HOA or get involved with HOA. And second, that any issue relating to utilities, be that water or sewer, is strictly the developer's gambit, developer's cost and expense. Had we had a public service authority, had we had a public sewage system, and I've been through that issue, again, we might provide that service, but at the end, the developer still pays for it, even if we had one. So those 2 issues really should not be considered by this board in the consideration of this amendment.
All right, okay.
I'd like to add one other thing, Mr. Chairman. The concept plan that's in your package also shows 2 multi-use areas, or what some people have said last month, commercial areas. Those two areas are not part of your approval tonight. Your approval, and I mean, am I correct?
I apologize. Those two were mislabeled. What I was trying to identify were two sites that were not included in the open space easements. We're about 90 acres, 2/3 of the property that we're talking about, we're going to be putting into a common area association or common area of some form. And we'll see where that, who owns that at the end of the day and what those arrangements are. We'll be working on that. But I just wanted, those two sites that are labeled mixed use probably could have been labeled better. That was just to say they're not part of the open space. We're not asking for any zoning changes. We'll decide how to use those according to the R2 down the road.
Yeah, so if at some point in time that Mr. Carter does come up with a plan for those multi-use areas, he would have to come back and go through this process again.
You have a concept, not a plan?
I really don't have any idea yet. Yeah.
Mr. Carter, are you going to find a new spot for the Frisbee golf?
Well, I plan to come back to the county. I'd like to see it moved across the street on the school property. I think it's in addition to the county, I think it's a good adjunct to the trail. So that's something we'll be discussing as part maybe of the 2023 discussion, 2035 plan, trying to figure out if it's appropriate to request to move the disc golf. I'd like to see it stay. If you all are not open to letting it move across the street, then I'll try to see perhaps some other, if I've got other property there. But the truth of the matter is I'm trying not to push any more than necessary against the existing homeowners. I'd rather see it go across the street on the school property until such time as you all have a use for it.
All right. Any additional questions for Mr. Carter? All right. Any of Mr. Gill? All right, gentlemen.
Good. Thank you so much.
I entertain. We have already had a public hearing, sir, all right, on it last month. So no, thank you. All right.
Before I make the motion, I would like to ask Mr. Carter that you would, have a meeting with the HOA. I know you said you would have a meeting.
Right.
And be sincere and talk with them and listen with them in good faith and y'all try to, work your things out.
Right.
Thank you.
And the way I phrased that, Mr. Gill, I've always said, I said, once we have approvals established, then there's a basis to have that discussion. So as soon as, if you all decide to approve, then that will go forward.
That's Mr. Gill over there.
No, I'm sorry, Mr. Lee.
I know
you both are so handsome, I always get confused.
I didn't know Olivia Hall got married to
Really?
Mr. Oliver, is it?
I wasn't going to say anything, but I heard it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the request for 137 additional lots to the previously approved master plan for Hills Quarter subdivision by Carter Financial Corporation be approved with the condition that the county is not responsible for any upgrades to the current sewer system to support these additional lots.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay.
Nay.
All right, so we have 4 ayes and 1 nay. All right, motion passed. Okay, thank you. All right, next one, Mr. Dawson.
Good evening. I'm Brett Dawson, Lancaster County Building Official. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Gill. I'm proposing an update to the permit publication fee schedule for the Department of Building and Land Use to include a minimum $50 fee for residential and commercial certificates of occupancy applications.
Can you hold on just a second? I can't hear you.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you all. Continue, sir.
Okay. The recommendation is to adopt the attached amended fee schedule. With the influx of requests for certificates of occupancy, I'm recommending that the county revise its fee schedule in order to defray the costs of enforcement of the Uniform Statewide Building Code. The building department is getting many requests for certificates of occupancy for older residential and commercial buildings that predate the building code. Also, the recent adoption of the short-term rental ordinance has increased these requests. The proposed fee would help offset the time required to process applications, research files, review plans, conduct on-site inspections, complete reports, and issue the certificates of occupancy. Thank you.
Is that enough money? It sounds like a lot of work for $50.
It is.
I'm just asking, I don't know.
We have a lot of houses, older houses that do not have COs.
Yes.
And commercial buildings, yes.
Commercial buildings.
That number that you came up with, 50, is that after you've researched other local areas?
No, it just falls in line with the current fees on our schedule.
Mr. Conway, is there any limitation on that part of it, set by the state or anything?
No,
Okay.
but it has to be reasonable, it has to be supported by the need.
So do these basically come aware when the property owner tries to sell or wants to do something there that they're not currently doing, or how do these normally come forward to you?
That does happen quite often during real estate transactions. That question comes up quite often.
And our short-term rental ordinance requires a CO. So, many of those coming in now that don't have a CO, if it's an older property, need the CO to check the box to come before you for the special exception. So,
And I'm assuming also that a lot of these were taken care of, and when somebody came in to remodel the house, you would inspect it and you give them a CO for the building, which included the remodeling, so the older part got blended into the new part.
Yes, sir.
But now it's more of a CO. I know the residential real estate transactions, a lot of attorneys are asking for COs. Because obviously you buy a house, you'd like to live in it. And if you don't have a CO, technically you're not supposed to.
It's insurance company driven also.
But how far do the records go back on that kind of thing?
I don't have a date range for you.
But then you do new inspections.
Yes, we do inspections.
What did you say?
Mainly to the year 2000. Sometimes we get lucky and it goes back to the 70s or 80s, but mainly 2000.
But you don't tear out any walls or anything, you just go in and...
No, we will not.
So how do you approve like old building under a new code? Like, are you like trying to like just?
That's the thing. If a structure was built, say in 1970, we are not going to bring it up to the current code. Primarily, what we're going to be looking at, and to answer your question, we're not tearing walls out. We'll primarily be looking at life safety issues, guardrails, handrails, smoke detectors, things of that nature. If we do see something questionable pertaining to the structure, then we may look into that farther.
What about electrical boxes?
That will remain in place as it was built back in 1970.
As long as it's safe.
As long as it's safe.
You're
Yes.
thinking if it hadn't burnt down by now, it's probably okay. You're saying if it hasn't burnt down by now, it's probably okay.
But you're tying new stuff into old stuff. And
I don't want to say that
may be
publicly.
I was saying but you're tying new stuff into old stuff, and that sometimes doesn't work.
Right.
And
In
then
many
you have
cases,
to-
you can't.
You have to make a decision.
If we've got knob and tube in a commercial building in Whitestone, can't expect to gut the entire building to.
All right, gentlemen, any other questions of the applicant, of Mr. Britt?
I'm
Dawson,
gonna
Mr.
pass
Dawson?
it, but if we find out that that's not enough, maybe we need to readdress it.
you can revise the fee schedule at any time, and.
That's the same fee it's for all other permits, right? $50?
Yeah, that's our minimum fee, is $50.
And that's what I based that fee on.
I was looking through it, it's in line with all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Can I just add, the risk of raising it too much is that people will stop getting the permits.
Oh,
And you'll end up with more of this problem.
Right.
can we do $49.99?
The low price.
Only on Thursdays.
You get, if you want to, you can get the second one for $19.99.
Yes, sir, I didn't change.
While they
Move
last.
that we charge a minimum fee of $50 for residential commercial certificates of occupancy.
All right, you've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye. 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 All right.
Thank you very
Motion
much.
unanimously passes. Thank you. All right. Mr. Smith, Chief Smith.
Glenn, is Matt on? Have you let him in? Getting there? Okay. Hey, Matt, can you hear us?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. So the memo I presented is for the Center Cross Tower site. This will be a brand-new tower site, our communication site agreement. This is part of the ongoing P25 regional radio project. So essentially what this site does is connects us to the regional network. So the signal goes from Center Cross to Lit Walton and then works in a clockwise pattern. I attached a diagram of the completed regional system as well as just the Lancaster Northumberland County projects. For this lease, I was able to negotiate the price down some, but SBA is also known for being kind of high. But we are taking up 2 rad centers on the tower with the microwave dishes. I was able to get they had an escalator. They were willing to drop it to 4% from the original 5%, and that's kind of the deal that we landed. The request tonight is the approval of the lease. There's still 2 pending. I made 2 proposals suggested by the county attorney Mr. Cornwell, for Section 18 indemnity and Section 22 confidentiality. So the request is to, once these changes are sent back from SBA to the satisfaction of the county attorney, the request is to authorize County Administrator Don Gill to execute the lease.
All right.
The 2 paragraphs, one relates to the fact that we can't disclose anything to anybody, which is contrary to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. So we had to strike that. And the second provision was that we indemnify the company in localities that Virginia cannot indemnify, so we've got to strike that.
Okay. Any other questions, gentlemen? All right, I entertain a motion.
I move that we have our county attorney execute the lease as stated.
Be county
County administrator, sorry.
Okay. All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passed unanimously. All right. Mr. Gill?
Mr. Chairman, your last consideration item deals with a proposed revised renewal of the county's wood waste facility contract. 5 years ago tonight, October 31st, 2019, the Board of Supervisors awarded a contract to RL Self Timber Incorporated to continue operating a wood waste management facility for the county. The term of that contract was for 5 years, but it allowed for an additional 5-year renewal upon expiration. The current contract expires tomorrow. RL Self Timber would like to continue to provide this service for the county, but is asking to have the contract price per month revised to offset the inflation that has incurred over the past 5 years. I included in your memo the inflation rate according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics over the past 5 years. If you add those up, they come to a total of 19.9%. RL Self Timber is asking for a 19.9% increase, which would carry that monthly fee from $16,666.67 to $20,000 a month, which is an increase of 19.9%. And that is consistent with the cumulative actual rates of inflation over the previous 5 years. RL Self Timber tonight has Nick Rowe here, who manages the site in Lively, if you all have any questions of him.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Does anybody have any questions?
No questions, I'll just comment that y'all do a good job up there and
Thank you.
Great service to the county and great partnership we've had over the years.
And like I said, we're just doing this because I have a breakdown right now of our expenses that I came up with, a couple months ago. With just all our prices, just everything is going up. Fuel costs is just, as y'all know, has gotten outrageous. As everybody's been talking, all these new buildings, all these new lots are selling and they're bringing it to us. And, it's just getting overwhelming. All the stuff that we're having to get, our grinder right now is under repair, so we're trying to get everything moved around, and we're struggling.
Do you have enough room there?
We do.
It looks like it keeps moving closer to the road.
No, we do have adequate room and spacing, it's just, getting, the 19.9% or more, if you guys are feeling generous, will allow us to continue, just to make repairs, we need to replace our tractor, our rubber tire loaders, and
Bill, you just need to order more mulch.
Well, Ronnie did come and visit me yesterday, and he said this would be a big help, Ronnie self, to help him keep in business. So he talked to me a little bit about the 20%. So I think he felt that would be adequate for him, so.
And it's a 5-year extension at that rate.
Yeah.
And although it's a 5-year contract, I know that the contract provides that either party may terminate on 60 days' notice. So it's a 60-day contract, but it's been a very good operation for the last 5 years, and we'll have another good operation for another 5 years.
And for 5 years at least before that. I'm not sure when it started. Do you know when?
in 2004, I think, was the oldest records that I could find.
So for 20 years.
And it's probably no telling how many backyard dumping places we done done away with.
As of this year, as of today, the end, we've had over almost 8,000 tons of debris collected this year.
All right, gentlemen, you have any
We're
other
going to approve
questions?
this in spite of you coming to Lancaster in a Northumberland T-shirt.
Sorry.
Y'all have any other questions?
I didn't even see that.
All right, at this time, I entertain one. Let's move on, gentlemen.
My niece plays volleyball, sorry.
We got other business, let's move on. All right, I entertain a motion.
I move that we accept this proposal as presented.
All right, you've heard the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous vote, motion passed. All right,
Thank you guys
sir.
so much. See y'all
All
tomorrow.
right,
I'll
good.
create the new contract and get with Ronnie.
Yes, sir. All right. Okay, board reports. Any board reports?
I'll just say happy Halloween to you all, and we won't have another Halloween meeting till 2030, so I'll see you then.
All right, county administrator report.
Mr. Chairman, we had some issues that we talked about during the county park presentation. I'm going to make one statement, and then I think John has a few things he wants to update you on. As you know, or the public may not know, 4 members of the Board of Supervisors will be attending the Virginia Association of Counties Annual Conference being held at the Omni Hotel in Bath County on November 10th through the 12th for educational purposes. Public business matters may be discussed, but no actions or votes will be taken. So just want to make that statement in public. John, I know you got a few updates you want to share with the board.
I do. I'm sorry, I'm prepared, forgive me. The county recently, or the county was recently informed, The county was recently informed by Friends of the Rappahannock that we have received some funding through some grants that they have applied for on our behalf and the behalf of the Northern Neck, other localities in the Northern Neck. That funding includes funding to help us pay for beach nourishment and dune plantings. This was a NIFWIF grant, National Fish and Wildlife Service grant that they got to help us with the dune planting at Westland Beach. And they also applied for some Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act funding through the NOAA's Coastal Zone Management Program, and got some funding for all 3 parks, the Westland Beach Project, Carter Cove Park, and Taylor Creek Park, to do best management practices at those sites. There's an event on November the 20th where our delegate Kent will be in attendance, where they will hand us a check for these funds, a ceremony, and we hope that you all can attend that event.
Here?
That'll
be at Westland Beach.
What day is that?
November 20th. Do we know the time? Is it 1 p.m.? No, Do we know what time?
The time has not been established yet.
Will you send out like a formal invite when it happens? When you get all that
Yes,
stuff
sir.
set up?
It has to be in the afternoon, though, to accommodate Delegate Kent's schedule, if I remember.
And that's the main reason we haven't had a date, is it has
Can
to.
we make it a polar plunge at the same time?
In these weathers, we might as well just break out the 2 feet.
Actually, if you'll allow me, I was able to finally bring up the actual numbers, so I had lost that screen. It's $100,000 from NIFWIF for the Westland Beach project, wetland and dune planting, $175,000 from DEQ's Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act for specifically the Westland Beach project, $200,000 for shoreline projects, $100,000 apiece for Taylor Creek and Carter's Creek Parks, that's that BMP funding. And then there's an additional $50,000 for urban forestry projects within Lancaster. Most of that is tabbed for the town of Irvington doing a tree giveaway. And they also have, the Friends of the Rappahannock have $140,000 from that same DEQ IIJA and $450,000 from NIFWIF available for living shoreline projects that are approved through VCAP regionally. And that's something that Olivia and I can get with our Wetlands Board on to encourage residents of the county to go after VCAP projects and get that money into Lancaster as opposed to any other county.
Sounds good.
Great work.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Anything else?
That's it?
Give that man a raise. I move that the Board of Supervisors enter into a closed meeting for one personnel per section 2.23711A1 of the Code of Virginia as amended. 2, acquisition, disposition of real property per section 2.23711A3 of the Code of Virginia. And 3, legal matters per section 2.23711A8 of the Code of Virginia.
Okay, before we do that, go into closed session, Mr. Carter.
Mr. Bailey, I'm sorry. I saw on the agenda, there was something about appointments. I just wanted to say that I'm turning 75 this year. I'm trying to get off of a lot of things. I'm asking if I could get off of the Northern Neck Planning District Commission's Planning Committee. And I've been serving for years as at-large, and I'd like for the board to consider finding another citizen to take my place.
All right, thank you, sir.
Good.
Thank you for your service.
Well, we were in the same class together in school. I know how old you are.
In order for you to exit, we're going to need a 10-page resignation letter submitted to Don Gill.
I do need something in writing.
It would have to be in double-spaced.
Great, got it. Thank you, gentlemen.
12-point font.
Yep. Dinner was moving. Y'all ready to accept that? Heard a motion on it, go in closed session? All in favor said aye? Aye. All right, we're going in closed session. All right. Yep, y'all are good humor today. Lancaster County Board of Supervisors adopt the following certification resolution. Whereas the Lancaster County Board of Supervisors convened a closed meeting on October 31, 2024, pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote on the motion to close the meeting to discuss personnel, legal matters, and acquisition disposition of real property in accordance with section paragraph 2.2-3711.A.1, 2.2-3711.A.8, and 2.2-3711.A.3 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas section paragraph 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the Board of Supervisors that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore be it resolved that the Lancaster County Board of Supervisors hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, number one, only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act were heard, discussed, or considered in a closed meeting to which this certification applies. And two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting to which this certification applies. Before a vote is taken on this resolution, is there any member who believes that there was a departure from the requirements from number 1 and number 2 above? If so, identify yourself and state the substance of the matter and why, in your judgment, it was a departure. Hearing no statement, I call the question. Mr. Bellis.
I certify.
Mr. Lee.
I certify.
Mr. Geezy.
I certify.
Mr. Smith.
I certify.
And I, Ernest Palin, certifies. This certification resolution is adopted. I entertain a motion. All right, you've heard the motion to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Motion adjourned.